Welcome back to Bad Attitude C-10. If y'all remember last year, before we sent the cab off to get painted, we mocked up the TorqStorm to make sure it would clear the factory AC bracket and the down bar for the roll cage that we installed in the Bad Attitude C-10. One thing that we also had was the aftermarket dampener. We had to create a spacer to get the manual to bolt onto our hub. So here's a little bit about what we did there. So what I did, I have a friend up the road named John Goble that owns Goble's Braking Transmissions. I took the hub and the washer to him, and he basically measured from the washer down. You see there's a little recess on this where this normally would go into the crank. So we measured from the base of this, added the washer length, and then I had him cut that adapter that we use as a jig to drill our crank out to those measurements. So then, to make it a clean install, he measured this ridge back down to this base that I had to measure, and he back cut the spacer that we made. So now, we're going to put them together, it's flush. So by adding the spacer to allow our manual to fit the aftermarket balancer, that made a 1/4 inch difference between the spacing in our pulleys. So I went and picked up a piece of 7075 aluminum that's a 1/4 inch thick and drew out a pattern around the bracket that goes onto the front of our head. I then went on ahead and tried to mark the hose, but the marker didn't work, so I got a spring-loaded center punch and marked the 4 holes that we would need to use to bolt the bracket to the head. Didn't have a bandsaw, I had was a jigsaw, so I called Dave and I ended up taking the plate once I made the little, outline of it to Nitrous Outlet, and they have a bandsaw there, so Dave Bastard told me, hey, just bring it up here tomorrow afternoon and I'll have somebody cut it out for you. So with the plate being done, and as you see, my bolt holes are marked, and there we go. Just kind of a rough deal. It's a little bigger than it should, but it's time to go on a road trip to Nitrous Outlet. Alright guys, for any of you that don't want to go along on our time-lapse drive over to Nitrous Outlet, you can jump forward to 4 minutes and 7 seconds to continue with the assembly of our TorqStorm. As you can see, we do have a little gray clouds in the sky, but actually, all in all, it's a beautiful day compared to all the rain that we've been getting here in Texas for the last 3 weeks. So it's kind of cool to get out on a day that's kind of sunny and everything, but the humidity and mugginess made it kind of horrible. But all in all, it is a good day. As y'all can tell, it's about like a 18 to 20 minute drive for us to get into Waco, and we really don't have to get into any major portions of the road. We do go down Valley Mills Drive, which is one of the main, main drags you can call it, and then one of the main roads to Franklin, which is where Nitrous Outlet is right off of. So right up here around the corner, we'll be there. So DH came out and grabbed my plate, took it inside and cut it out for me, and about 5 minutes later, we're back on the road and getting back to the shop to get on with our progress. Alright guys, I started out by trying to put my aluminum in the vise, but when I looked at the relationship to the hose and my aluminum versus the vise, it was going to be take it in, take it out, take it in, take it out, and I wasn't going to go through that. So I'm just going to use my vice grip hand. So I applied a little bit of oil, and using a smaller drill bit to drill pilot hose, I started making my hose. Once my pilot hose were drilled, I installed a larger bit and moved on to the larger side to finish out our bracket. I then moved our spacer for our bracket over to the vise and got a 4-inch grinder with a disc on it. Now guys, I did use a face shield, and I do wear a mask when cutting aluminum, because that dust, guys, you do not want to get that shit in your lungs. It's not good for you at all. And I'll show you a bit of how fine this dust does get. So guys, here's that aluminum dust, and like I said, it is fine, and this shit gets everywhere. So TorqStorm gives you a colored pamphlet, instruction, whatever you want to call it, and it's step by step, and it's pretty in-depth and thorough. And we're going to flip through this main part that we started with and have already completed, and get up to the install of our dampener or pulley for our dampener, whichever way you want to say it. And here you go. So we're going to go ahead and install the 4 bolts required to mount it. Now we're not going to use the Loctite as suggested, because this is, again, just a mock-up. Okay guys, up next we're going to put the plate to the head. Now remember, we're going to add the spacer, and this plate has a indentation or recess for ample clearance for the valve cover. Now I'm going to go ahead and use a thread chaser to make sure the threads are good in the head and everything's cleaned out and clear. In addition, since we're adding the 1/4-inch plate as a spacer, I went on ahead and bought bolts that are about a 1/2 inch longer. The ones that come in the kit just bolt directly in, so I wanted to add lock washers, and so in addition to the 1/4-inch plate, I added a little more length to account for the lock washers that are going to be installed. Up next, we're going to put the head unit bracket on and install it. Now, there's an idler pulley that is supposed to be removed before you install this, and it was already removed, so I'm just going to go ahead and run these 2 bolts in and snug them up. Again, it's just mock-up, so no Loctite or anything was used. Now, the idler pulley itself does have an indentation in one bolt that mounts, and you'll actually put a retaining nut on the back. Again, we're just going to tighten this up because it is mock-up. Up next, we're going to install the head unit using the 3/8 by 16 hardware that was provided in the kit. It's now time to install our belt that was provided in the kit. The TorqStorm belt alignment does show a picture, so you can see exactly how to route the belt and which pulley it goes around. Now, the belt that's included in the kit is this Daco belt. Now, since I'm running a smaller pulley on the head unit, I may have to see if I can find a little bit smaller belt. Well, everything feels snug and as secure as it should be, and it's within the ridges of the pulleys and the lands, and it does have some tension. There's still a 1/4-inch play on the tensioner pulley. As far as alignment goes, you can be the judge, but it looks pretty much spot on to me. Now, please excuse the angles. It's kind of like tilting forward, and I'm going to try to give you a good straight view, which right here you can see everything looks aligned. This is a little bit of different view, and I'm going to open the garage door to get a little more light on the subject. I think we're golden, guys. I think it worked out, just fine, but we shall see. Just for shits, grins, and giggles, I went ahead and threw the alternator bracket on just to get a peek of what this engine's going to look like.